All right.
All right. Well, then I'm going to mute and let Mike carry it away. I've got some stuff on the back end to talk about, and we'll go from there. We'll wing it. Welcome everybody. All
Okay.
yours, Mike.
Yep, I'll go ahead and get started. So we're going to cover a lot of ground. I promise to try really hard not to nerd out on you, and try and keep this accessible. But some of the stuff is technical, so I will go into technical details there. But for the most part, I want to kind of keep this down to earth and what matters. So I'm going to start with some current statistics. The grid's been pretty much continuously online, other than short outages for maintenance. Um, I can report that we have full backups daily of all the assets and all the database tables and everything else. Everything is backed up and on a regular basis and recoverable. I've had to actually recover and rebuild one of the servers during that time period. I had a hardware failure on one of the servers, and it really didn't have an impact. It was very straightforward because of all the backups I've got and everything else. We were able to come back up real quickly with it. So I think overall, if the grid status is good and the health is good, we have 147 total regions. 18 standard regions, standard being 256 by 256, the old-fashioned Second Lifestyle regions. 129 VAR regions. In region equivalents, that's 2,135. So if you looked at that number on the Hypergrid business list, that would place us currently at number 10 on the list. The reason I say it would is because I don't go out of my way to actually report our numbers up there. I don't really like the fact that they're reporting region equivalents. What often happens is you get a little tiny grid creating these monstrous VAR regions that perform poorly, and but they can say that they're the biggest grid, because of all that. And so I don't think that's the most important thing. But that gives you an idea of how we compare to other OpenSim grids right now. Basically, that we're number 10 on the list. Definitely one of the larger of the commercial grids that are providing services for people, and been healthy for a long time, coming up 7 years, coming up on 8. So we've lost a few residents. We onboarded a bunch of people late last year from Discovery Grid when Discovery shut down for the conversion to a new project that Balpin's working on, and I've been following that. He's doing a great job with that. I think that's moving in the right direction. But we were glad to welcome a bunch of new residents. Some of those people have left since. Uh, it didn't surprise me. I think it's a matter of fit, and we've got some new residents that have come in and basically made up the difference. So we're really kind of neutral, and I think the grid's been stable. Grid population has been stable. Interesting to note, we have a total of 688 resident accounts. That's how many individual users have registered. Of course, a lot of those are alts, but overall, I think the grid's in good shape uh, as it is right now. Our goal is to grow it, and that's what a lot of the rest of my conversation is going to be around, is thinking about how we can focus and grow the grid going forward, because I think the healthier the community we have, the better. We already have a really good community. I'm really proud and happy to be able to provide a service to all of you, and I hope you enjoy it. And but I think I'd like us to be able to grow too, so that those of us that are content creators have people to make stuff for and all that kind of stuff. All of this stuff is built on what's called the Next Gen Core project. It's my project for development of the grid system. I don't know if this is well known, but there are a lot of other grids that actually run NGC, the R version of OpenSim. That's in spite of the fact that earlier this year we essentially forked from OpenSim. I still will occasionally pull changes in from OpenSim, but it's definitely going its own way. We have a number of features that are not in OpenSim at all. Display names and experiences. Those were thanks to Mobius Grid, who's running NGC. The link set data piece, which makes us compatible with Second Life, and a lot of our focus has been Second Life compatibility. Interestingly enough, Core picked up my changes for that after we did them. So NGC actually had link set data first, but he changed them so that they're incompatible with what we did on purpose, which is I'm kind of sad by that, but it's not unlike other experiences other people have had with Core. So that's kind of frustrating. A big chunk of the other effort this last year has been on WebRTC. If you're a Second Life resident, you've probably heard of this. There's a move away from Vivox for voice and to what's called WebRTC. It's a different system for voice management. It's actually what Discord is based on, and we have a totally integrated current implementation of WebRTC in the NGC project. Thanks, interestingly enough, to a core member of OpenSim, someone who's a member of OpenSim Core who really likes our NGC project and has been hanging out in there lately. So um, anyway, I'm pleased with. It is very likely that Vivox is going to stop working by the end of the year because Second Life is getting ready to make their switch, and I think when that happens, they'll turn it off. And the good news is that we will have an alternative solution available and integrated for voice when that happens. And so that's been one of the efforts around NGC. But as I said, I forked it early this year. I will take patches from OpenSim, but my focus is not compatibility with it. That's actually becoming increasingly more difficult to do, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second, especially related to the hypergrid. But the big thing to note is that the new system is called Tranquility. That's in homage to Tranquility Dexler. Many of you who are InWorld's residents remember him. He was a mentor to me in terms of virtual, and I have a lot of respect for him. And I asked him if I could use his avatar name for the name of the distribution, and he gave me permission. So this our system is called Tranquility. It is a fork of OpenSim, and we're going to go in our own direction going forward. So we essentially are no longer OpenSim, as it were. I'm not going to make any effort to relicense the OpenSim code because that would just be a huge effort. I would have to contact all the authors and everything else. But any replacements I make will be under a new license that gives credit to NGC and actually it also ensures that we don't pick up liability that's not necessary and requires people to give credit where credit's due. If they use code from the system, they have to give the changes back and give credit in the code. And there will be some things that we'll do in Tranquility going forward that will remain binary only, that will be unique to our grid. That's just me trying to build our business, this part of the business. But again, more about that in just a minute. So grid health is good. It's all built on this NGC project, which I think is healthy. Yeah, sorry, I'm nerd talking too much. I'll try and be careful. My summary won't be nerdy, but we're we're healthy. The grid is healthy. The project that it's based on is healthy and moving in a good direction. I think our focus in the NGC project is security and a lot more stability. And I have a bunch of plans in that line. I'm going to talk about that later on, about some roadmap items and things that are planned for the future. But I want to take what I think is the most important topic for today and talk about the hypergrid and us. And I'm going to go back to the grid stats that I gave you earlier. I mentioned that we have a fair number of regions and stuff. One of the things I didn't talk about is concurrency. So right now this morning I looked at our numbers. We had 10 online users. I think actually that's on the high end of most OpenSim grids. There are a few grids, one or two at the top of the list, that probably have a higher concurrency than that, but not by much. So we're talking tens of users online at any given time. Compare that in Worlds in its heyday, the maximum number was around 300 simultaneous users, with the average about 150. So that's a pretty good number. But that's for a closed grid that isn't hypergrid accessible, where people were really participating in what I think was a healthy community. And then finally, to put that into context, Second Life's concurrency, which is, and this is a guess because nobody knows, they don't publish exact numbers, but Second Life's concurrency runs at about 45,000 residents online at any given time. On one end of the spectrum, you have Second Life with its large online concurrency. At the other end of the spectrum, you have lots of little OpenSim dream grids and things like that with one or two users, a couple of commercial OpenSim grids that have about 10 users, maybe a few more, but it's pretty clear where the numbers are, right? If you look at a user base, first of all, 45,000 simultaneous users, if you look at the billing that happens and everything goes along with it, that's a pretty healthy number. There's a lot of money being generated there, not only for the company that's doing the grid, but also all the creative people making content on top of it. On the other end of the spectrum, in OpenSim, you have a very small number of people spread out across lots and lots of grids. It's very difficult to make community happen. And if we were to say where our growth was going to come from, I wouldn't say it would be OpenSim at all, because there's no sense competing with that. How do you target that user base? And I'm not even going to get into content theft and all of the botted content and things like that are on OpenSim grids. All of this stuff are things that I've been thinking about a lot lately, in terms of if our goal is to grow Utopia Skye, where's the growth going to come from? And I think it's going to come from Second Life, and or people that have no virtual experience, and for them it's a new thing, which means that the hypergrid has really very little value to us, and a really big downside. A lot of the botted content comes in that way. It's increasingly difficult to maintain compatibility. There's a recent example I can give. Core made a change that affects the script engine, and unfortunately what it does is it causes every script on the system to get reset, all of the script state to get lost. Many of you who are InWorlds residents might remember towards the end of InWorlds there was an incident that happened where a change was pushed out, where script state got lost, and all of the sit targets on all the furniture and all that kind of stuff all got messed up. And that's essentially what's going to happen the change that the core made, if I were to roll it out as is, that would be what would happen with all of the furniture, things like that. And I don't want to do that to my user base, so I'm not going to. But it's one more place we're incompatible with the hypergrid. And once something leaves our grid, or if something comes in from the hypergrid, I can't do anything about that. So I can't protect that content. So we're not going to implement that specific change, but it also really kind of underscores the fact that the hypergrid itself is problematic. It's really a minor miracle that stuff works reliably when you move it around against different places. If you aren't aware, there is no requirement that people upgrade their versions. So there are lots of old versions of OpenSim and things like that are on the hypergrids. Anyway, our focus is parity with SL for features, and I can't do that and also do the hypergrid compatibility going forward. And I totally get that some people may not be comfortable with this decision, but what we have decided, because we think our growth is going to come from not from OpenSim but from other places, is that as of January 1st, 2026, Utopia Skye Grid is going to become a closed grid. We'll basically turn off the hypergrid. I will maintain the ability to get deliveries from the Kitely market, but you won't be able to hypergrid to Kitely, and so on. So we will be more like InWorlds in our implementation, and I can then do a bunch of things for SL compatibility and so on. Over the years, Callie and I have made a number of efforts to try and cajole people to come across, right? And we actually often get very interested discussions. People are curious. And then they find out that, oh, well, it's connected to the hypergrid and OpenSIM, and oh my God, content theft, and the conversation stops. Again, I believe our growth is going to come from that avenue. And I think that if we do shut down the hypergrid and stay a closed grid, we'll grow because of it, not shrink. We might lose a few residents, and so because people may not be comfortable with this decision, they may really want to be able to get on the hypergrid, and for that reason, we won't implement this till January 2026. It gives a couple months for people to make decisions about what they want to do, and if they do feel they need to find a home on another grid that is still connected to the hypergrid, they can. By the way, there's no reason you can't have an account on a closed grid and the hypergrid at the same time. And we very much will continue to welcome everybody is here. So, but we will be closing so that if you need or feel you need hypergrid access, you may have to make other arrangements. The future plans. Let's talk about that for a second. And we can, if I left any holes, hopefully not. I think I might even be rambling a little bit, but I'll come back and answer questions for sure. So we're going to maintain Kitely delivery compatibility. I've mentioned that. You'll be able to get access to the Kitely market. There's also interest in Wolf's developing a marketplace for our grid as well as potentially others, and we'll have that as an option too. I am going to drastically increase security between the components of the system. Right now, there are holes big enough to drive a truck through. In terms of security, a lot of that won't have an impact on day-to-day stuff if you're not trying to do something that's suspicious. But if you are, it'll be harder to do. That's for sure. And I also want to use it as a selling point to some of those Second Life residents and other residents and future residents that care about that stuff. If you're a content creator and you want to know your content is secure, I'd like to be able to demonstrate that we have this increased security that we have is actually relevant and makes a difference. We're going to retire the current website we have. I've been talking about this for a while. I'm not a great web programmer. I'm not even really good at it. I've gotten a little bit of help recently from Wolf, especially, who's pitched in and helped a little bit. But I've got, I think, a system now that I can work with, and I'm going to finish that up. And I will post a note in the Discord of a place you can peek at and use the current system because it's fully functional. Current system being the new replacement. It will continue to evolve as I add features. The big thing that's missing right now before I can roll this out is the avatar picker for a starting avatar. And I'd like to make it so that even a person that has an existing account could go and say, give me a copy of this avatar's look so that you could have that copied into your inventory as well. But I'm going to be doing that. There's a couple of other new features planned. I got beat up about a year ago for offline email. That's going to work. It's about 90% there. I'd like to add inventory browsing from the website and the ability to set flags on inventory. That's how I'm going to implement the export flag, which we've talked about before as well. Now that I don't have to maintain compatibility with OpenSIM for it, it gives me an option. And some more flexible things with licensing and permissions. I'd like to be able to let people associate real licenses and terms to the objects they create so that it's a bit more flexible than just copy mod transfer. lots of future plans. A lot of it has to do with security. A lot of it was going to be focused on Second Life compatibility. So these customers that I hope will find what we're doing attractive can come over to something that's familiar, and we'll continue to build on that. The big thing that I think is important to emphasize and is that we're not OpenSim anymore. We're Utopia Skye Grid, and we're running a proprietary version of an engine called Tranquility that is derived from OpenSim, but is no longer OpenSim, strictly OpenSim. We're focused on being an artist grid and a creators grid, a place where anybody can feel welcome, all walks of life. I feel very strongly the current world climate where a lot of people are being criticized for being woke or different or a woman or a minority or an older person or anything like that, I feel pretty strongly that that's the wrong way to be. And I want this to be a safe place for everybody. So that's what we're going to build. We value creator IP, and I don't want to perpetuate botted content. It's going to be a reality, and we're going to put systems in place to take advantage of it, or to basically manage it. And we need talent. So and bring your friends. I mean, that's the other thing too. Is the best way for us to grow is for people to bring their friends over. I really believe that we have a strong community, and that's a benefit. I love the connections that people have with each other. I love that we support each other, and we need to keep doing that by bringing our friends over and other people that are create content creators over, so that we continue to grow and build the kind of community that we all want to be a part of. So I think I'm going to stop talking for just a few minutes and hand it over to Callie. She's got some things she wants to talk about as well about activities on the grid. And hopefully, if I missed something, I will get a note and get prompted for it. But we can also address a lot of stuff in questions as well.
Yeah, I think before I dive into some of the administrative and events things, we should. I think we've got a question, and rather than confuse people, I want to let that question be asked. So I'm gonna hold on that and let looks like Ellen ask a question.
Yes, I think so. Ellen, I do want to continue to support Kitely deliveries. I have a little bit of research to do. The problem is if I open the door part way, then I have to maintain compatibility again. I'd like to look at ways to move content around, and because I understand the use cases you're mentioning, but yes, it might actually imply that you'd have to upload them in both places if you want the content to be available in both places. I'm going to continue to look into that though.
If I may add to this, Mike, and feel free to interrupt me at any time. Part of the tenet of the Next Gen Core project, the NGC project, is what's being tentatively called the trusted grid concept. And while this is not working in place yet, please understand that. What it involves, at least in its design, is the ability that other grids can come on board to this arrangement and through a series of agreements and licensing, be held to the same kind of standard, especially with with respect to creator IP. If when that gets kind of set up and taken care of, then things may change. So hypergrid going away at this point may not always be a permanent issue, but it is not something that we have the flexibility to entertain right now, if that makes sense. In particular, with respect to your creations, Ellen, I totally understand where you're coming from. USG would, you'd have to be, even if we were open to Kitely at this minute. So I can't predict the future. I'd love to. I'd win the lottery, but I can't yet. Um, but unfortunately, at this moment, because we run different updated code with enhanced content and will continue to do so on Tranquility, even if we were open at this time, you would still have to make it twice because the people you'd be selling to wouldn't be able to use some of the things. So I know that may not necessarily make you feel 100% better, but it might give you some explanation as to why this exists this way. But again, the long-term project for NGC, and again, Mike, please feel free to cut me off if I'm spouting wrong, is that eventually there will be a trusted grids kind of concept. It's just not in play yet, and it
Yeah.
takes a lot of work to get that together. So it's not something we could offer today.
Yeah, that's correct. So at the point at which the security elements that I mentioned are implemented, once I can say that things are secure between grids and we have we can actually set up a trust relationship and it means something. We support connecting grids together, and I don't know if it would be hypergrid at that point. It could be something, a different protocol or a different way of doing it, but I could see us going back in that direction. But I think I understand Ellen's concerns, and I also agree with what Callie just said. You might actually want to do the uploads twice, just simply because there are differences in the code, especially the scripting, but also the code between core and USG, and it might require that in order for compatibility. And I do understand that that's a kind of a pain. It's more difficult, but and I'll see what I can do to try and make that easier.
Hello. My question is, will we still be using Skybox? Will Globit still be an option? That was it, really.
Yep. So yes, on all accounts, Globits will still work. Skybucks will still be a factor. The Skybucks will still be backed by Podex. And none of that's going to change. I've actually been looking a little bit at a money module that supports digital coins like Bitcoin and things like that. I don't know if that's feasible yet, but it's something I'm going to look into over the next year. But at least the two options we have today, the Skybucks and the Globits, will continue to work, and you will be able to continue to pay your tier if you wish to with Skybucks. Right. Yeah, there will still be options for that. Hopefully more of them in the future.
Hello, this is Lex. For those who are creators that want to sell things, I don't know all the details of Wolfie's planned marketplace that he's building for us, but would it be possible, and Wolfie, you might have to answer this, for us to upload our items to Wolfie's thing and then folks on other grids get it from there as a way to sell things instead of putting them on Kitely?
Yeah, so that would definitely be a Wolfie question, because it would involve delivery to a third-party grid. Yeah, so he says it's something he's looking at.
Because that would solve a lot of people's problems, I think. Ah,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yep. Okay. I mean, the big thing, a lot of the things that have motivated this have been around that issue of trust, and the fact that OpenSim as a market is just not there. There's lots of people in OpenSim copying around and handing around botted content. There's even some commercial grids that they make money off of this. I mean, they sell God mode access to regions so people can make changes to content that they get, things like that. I just don't feel like I want to run a business like that, and I don't see that there's growth in that direction. Hence the reason that Second Life customers and people that are just coming from MMOs and other games. I have some interesting ideas about. I like playing MMOs where it's a survival focus and you can build in the world. And I think there's some interesting ideas in some of that technology that I'd love to see brought over into a virtual environment. Be nice if somebody could set up a house by using tile sets like you do in a game. And I want to find people that want to make that kind of stuff happen and work on it. So that I think will open up new markets for us. We'll have an opportunity to get customers that either are already in Second Life and comfortable with the technology, or new people that have not done this before. And I think hopefully we can all grow and do it in a way that preserves our ability to be creators, which is definitely a goal.
Hello, sorry. My other
Hey,
question, which I forgot to ask, was would we possibly be connected to other NGC trusted networks in the future? Maybe.
yeah, so that would be the most likely target for trusted grid people. I know a number of grid operators that currently run NGC and are interested in the trusted grid concept. And if we can add the security layer in place that allows content to pass in a way that's consistent and honors the licenses that the creators have, then yes, I think that's the first place I would expect to see that new version of the hypergrid, which we have yet to name, the trusted grid. We'll call it that.
That would be, sorry, that would be great, wouldn't it? If we
Yeah.
could. All right, thank you. That was the only other question I could think of. I do apologize. I
Oh
forgot
no,
to
that's
ask.
fine. Thank you. I don't. While we're waiting for other questions, I think I want to sum up and say that I think our growth is going to come from people who have no experience with virtual worlds or coming from Second Life. That's where the market is. And I want us to be able to grow because I think all of us benefit. People that make content for sale need customers to sell to. And people who want to experience a rich virtual world need content creators. So, and as a grid owner, it's a lot easier for me to provide services to where there's a environment that's growing and we have the money coming in to support the development. So the real focus of this is to build something viable and healthy for the future, and also not at the cost of our community. I want to make sure that what we end up with is something we're all proud to be a part of, and that makes us feel happy and safe.
So I
Any
think now
other
is
questions?
probably a good time to move on to the administrative and events so that we can keep this as
Okay.
short as possible and allow for, further questions. Um,
Yep.
so I'm going to take over. Ha ha. I'm such a control freak. So what I want to add, just on the heels of everything that Mike has kind of given, is that there is a kind of a narrative that I think will make sense for people in other grids, in Second Life, and perhaps for those coming from places that haven't had virtual experience. We have a very enthusiastic community member who's picked up the reins and learning Blender and contributing, and is now a very active member of the community who never had any virtual experience whatsoever. In fact, she and her real life husband came from the MMO world. We all played WoW together. That's Sapphira, and her husband. I don't remember if his name is Nutless or Planus, or but Nutless Joe. But they came, from a game environment, and have found it, a very good place to be. So there are other people that that might find some enjoyment joining the grid. But the narrative and the thing that I think is the most important is that we are not open sim, not anymore. Once the fork happened and we went to the proprietary engine of Tranquility, we're no longer open sim. It's kind of like, in Worlds with Halcyon, right? Halcyon was based off of OpenSim. I think it was 2.0 back then. We're the same. We were, originally based off of OpenSim, but we're not OpenSim anymore. And I think that the further you get away from saying that to anybody you're speaking to about the grid, the easier conversation may go, to generate interest. The other thing is, we're an artist grid, we're a creators grid, a grid where people can feel safe. But we're also a wellness grid. There are several underutilized places on the grid, like the Wellness Center for, Eastern kind of methodologies like Reiki. We have meditation. We have things coming up like safe spaces for autistics and things of that nature. So there are so many things that are just greatly underutilized on the grid that really can be a boon depending on who you're talking to for interest in the grid. The other thing, again, on the tails of what Mike said, is that USG is the flagship for the NGC code. The Tranquility engine is run here, the code is updated here. And it's a really good thing because we have a very active and engaged developer. So if there is any potential issue, it's spotted right away and taken care of. But it's like a 98% to 2%. The benefits far outweigh any potential issues because we get the benefit of new updates, new enhancements, and things that are proprietary just to USG. So those are all good talking points if there is interest. I also don't want people running around shoving this down people's throats. Okay, I want to be respectful about it, but I do want us to start talking about it more. The conversations need to happen. And the last point I'll make towards this is if you do know scripters or coders or people that are interested in kind of cutting their teeth on some of the things we're working on, send them our way. I mean, it certainly can't hurt to have a conversation with anyone. We forked off a while ago, Lex. I don't remember how long ago. Mike, you might be able to answer that more clearly than I can. But we've been forked for a while. We've just never gone proprietary until recently. And if I'm wrong, Mike, please feel free to shut me up. Yeah, so April. Okay. So I'm going to move into the events and administrative things. The last thing I'm going to say as far as tech stuff goes, because you all know this isn't my forte, group notices in World work. They've worked, I think, since the beginning, Mike, right? I mean, so use them. I love that we use Discord. Discord is our primary source of communication. It's where we have our forums. It's where we have the state of the grid and things like that. You all know I'm a big Discord believer, although lately they've been a bit dicey, but it works for what we need. However, it shouldn't replace use of the in-grid tools like notices and things. So please do start using them. Let people know what's going on. There are a few people that don't check Discord frequently and would rather see an in-world notice. The one thing that we don't have at this minute, because it was broken in the core code that was deployed, is offline messaging. That's coming, something that Mike has as a priority, but that will eventually come along. Voice, like he said, will continue to work even when Vivox shuts down at, we think, the end of the year, whenever SL releases theirs. And because of the work that Mike has done in NGC, along with a handful of other folks contributing. So that's also a boon. So these are good things and administrative things that you kind of need to be aware of. This is a really good place to be. While you may find that there's a couple of PETA things, I'm specifically thinking of Ellen's situation because I do understand your use case, Ellen. There are a lot of other really good benefits to being on USG and being part of this growing community. Now on to the good stuff, and hopefully I don't ramble because this is where Mike nerds out on you and I get creative out on you. So we've got lots of stuff coming up on the grid. We've got our typical events, which are Fetish Fire, the jazz-ish eclectica, meditation, and all those kinds of things. But there's going to be some changes coming up too. First and foremost, the dates aren't set yet, but we do have Winterfest coming up, and there are a group of people working on this. So merchants look to get some information about that coming up very soon so that you have ample time to plan. There will be some changes, probably maybe the venue. Nothing's been set in stone other than the fact that this Winterfest is going to happen and more details are coming soon. The GT event is a very big event. I know we had one last year and then things got kind of thwarted with my surgery and all sorts of real life nastiness. But this year, Luminaria is going to take place February 28th at noon grid time, and it is a big event. It is so big that I've actually started advertising for it now. In fact, I'm offering free outfits, free costumes, because it is a themed event, Angels Among Demons. And starting in October 26th is the official date. But if you're in this call and you head over to the Golden Sky region, you might see the outfit for October there already. Just saying. In October, November, and December, there will be giveaways of outfits that you can use for the event, use for your own personal use. And it will include a note card that will provide hop links to where you can get other pieces for the outfit. So the picture has the outfit plus, like, I don't know, hair, jewelry, shoes, whatever. And I will provide a hop link to the exact location where you can get the exact items that I'm wearing from other USG creators on the grid, so we can continue to support our community and our merchants in their growth. That's for the GT stuff. Keep an eye out on the Golden Touch Theater channel for that one. We also have a new addition with respect to the closing of the hypergrid. We are introducing for the first time on USG something called the Utopia Skye Welcome Grove. So any new resident that comes in that's 30 days or younger, is entitled to a free home on a parceled region called Utopia Skye Welcome Grove. So what it would look like for any of your friends that might want to come over is they register on the website with their required or the requested avatar name first and last and their email address, and that's it. Then when they come in world, should they decide to kick the tires around for a bit, they can teleport over to the Welcome Grove and then join a group that's set, for the parcel that they would choose. And they would join that group and get res rights and music rights and all sorts of fun stuff. So they can kind of kick the tires around. And after 30 days, they can then decide if they wish to purchase a region or vacate the parcel they're on and use the sandboxes. We do have 2 of them for USG residents to use. So that's new and upcoming. And we're going to have events, regular events that are going to be coming up that will introduce those regions to you as well. First, to our fetish fire, when Mike and I run fetish fire, so that's alternating Saturdays twice a month from 3 to 5, we're introducing a second set on those Saturdays with DJ Wolfie from 1 to 3 grid time. So fetish fire on the days that they are run will have 2 sets, one at 1 to 3 grid time and the other from 3 to 5 grid time. And that'll be either Mike or myself that do that second set. So that'll be 4 hours of music. Be fantastic. We're also going to take one of our GT Club events. We do 2 of them per month. We're going to take one of them and repurpose them. So for the second GT Club event of each month, we will have it on 1 month on Welcome, and it will be a 3-hour set. 1 hour of music from Wolf, Mike, and me. And then the next month, the second GT Club event of the month, will be done on the newly minted Welcome Grove region. So we can continue to have community events in places where communities exist. I think that will be a fantastic thing to do. I also, along with the idea that if you know of scripters or coders that would like to get involved, want to mention that we would love to have some new DJs and new clubs. Currently, we work to not cover or overlap each other's sets, but we're happy to work with any new clubs coming in or DJs coming in to have different styles of music and such as well. So we can kind of round out the music that people like to hear and styles that people like to do. We also have more animations coming in. I've had a conversation with a Bramlin from Abranimations. He only sells to USG residents and Second Life. He's going to be bringing in some role play animations. I don't think the HUD is coming over. I'm not sure yet about that, but for sure the animations are coming. We might even see a racetrack from Abranimations. So that's all future stuff too. So that's exciting. And then lastly, the thing I want to mention is that we have incentive programs coming in the future. None of them are set in stone yet, so I want to caution you with that. But you want to make sure that you keep an eye out on the resident announcements channel for any future incentive plans. These can be things such as like if you refer a resident who gets a region, you both get 25% off of a region or something, something like that. It's going to be something that will benefit who you bring over as well as yourself. And we're looking forward to putting those things together. We just need to kind of flesh them out and make them make sense for everybody's use. We still need to have the welcome area kind of fleshed out. So if you have any free offerings that you want to do, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm not running the same incentive that I did last time, although that may be a future offering, but the rules still apply. You have to join the group on welcome in order to res there, but we'd be happy to have more content, especially for new residents that might come in. We are working on new starter avatars as well with our own kind of mesh clothing and things like that. So those are changes come up. So I could go on forever. It's a really good time to get people in. So that's really the end all. The last thing I want to mention about events, it's not really my event, but I do want to mention it, is that part of the discovery group that came over was Modi and her battle group. And they run a spectacular, I think it's twice a week battle where the ships are given to USG residents for free, and for those battle events they can be rezzed and all sorts of really cool stuff. And then every once in a while she does some music events too. So there are alternative events on the grid other than the events that you know of. So you want to take a look at the calendar, which posts in the USG events notifications channel. It posts the events in your time zone, which is important because a lot of people in Europe, have to do a translation of, okay, Pacific time +3 to Eastern and then another 5. It just gets crazy. So the USG events notification channel, the one that has the little bubbles around US and G, is what posts the events that are on the calendar, and it posts it in your time zone. So if you want to add something to the calendar, until the new website is up, you have to go through me. I'm not too difficult to talk to, I promise. And I will work with you on that. There's a post in the coffee house that I will get and pin in this chat so that you can get refreshed on what you need to give me for me to post it. Unless I have forgotten something, I think that's all I had. I'd like to open it up for any questions about events or anything that I've mentioned. Additionally, if you have discovered you have a question about Mike's content, the time to raise your hand is now.
I just raised my hand to say thank you for all the information and all the work you do. We appreciate it, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure everyone agrees with me, but we appreciate it. That was all.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you too. So thank you. It's a good team. Any other questions? So obviously, there may be people may come up with questions about all this stuff. I'm going to post. We're going to have the recording available so that people can listen to the discussion. Unfortunately, they won't see some of the chat. Well, yeah, I guess they will if it's a video recording. So anyway, we'll have the recording available. I'm also going to post a summary in the one of the Discord channels. If people have questions, then we would be happy to entertain them, even private conversations. If you feel like you need to talk about something privately or address it that way, just let us know. I understand this is a big change, but I also think it's going to enable us to do some cool things going forward. So Lex asked a kind of a question in the state of the grid stage about does it mean that there will be no particle limit? We can code it so there's no particle limit on the viewers. Yes and no. I can make changes to the particle limits, but some of the limits are actually due to the size of the data being shoveled around. In particular, some of the parameters used for particles are 8-bit bytes. I'm going to get nerdy on you. And you can only have so much data in that. And that would require viewer change. But related to that, and I actually didn't say this, but I should have, Beck, who is the primary architect and developer for Firestorm, is in our NGC server and collaborates with us there. And there's a number of other viewer developers that are also there. So we have a good working relationship with the Firestorm team. And I think we should be able to do some creative things that are unique to us, or more to the point, if we're SL compatible, we can get them to turn on some things that currently aren't enabled through OpenSim because we have implementations. So that's a good thing. All right, you guys have all been really patient, and hopefully I didn't nerd out too badly, unless you like nerd things, in which case, hope it was satisfying. I'm just looking forward to growing all this stuff together with all of you. So thank you for being in attendance and listening, and let's build something cool together.
I've been posting links to various chats in our server where you can find information. So the social media links are posted there. You can find them in the coffee house. They're all pinned. But in our chat here in the State of the Grid chat channel, there's also how to get your event on the calendar, how to see events in your time zone, how to get a server tag, and where our forums are. I think those are important utilities that we do use alongside the grid utilities. So those links are in our chat here. They will take you to the relevant channels in the main USG, server channels. If you have questions on Discord, as always, I am happy to help. just message me.
Thank you, everybody. I think that's it for today then. Thank you.
That's all. Have a great rest of your day, folks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.